In the city that never sleeps, the night carries a blend of calm and tension. For some, it's a time of rest. For others, it's the stage where small dramas and great challenges unfold, invisible to most. Rose wasn't expecting anything out of the ordinary that night. After a long day, she boarded the subway as usual. To others, she was just another passenger, an elderly woman in a gray coat, sitting quietly in a corner, clutching her bag with a mix of apprehension and care. But that night, something unusual was about to happen, something that would make her realize how the thin line between safety and danger can shatter in an instant. What Rose didn't know was that what she was about to face would be a fight against more than just an attempted theft. Sometimes fate works in mysterious ways. It tests us, challenges us, and sometimes surprises us. Rose sat in one of the corner seats of the train carriage, clutching her Gucci bag tightly. Her gaze was fleeting, avoiding locking eyes with any of the other passengers. She had learned that staying invisible was often the safest way to get by. The silence was broken by the sound of the doors opening. A man stepped in and, without hesitation, scanned the carriage with his eyes. He walked slowly and deliberately, sitting just a few seats away from Rose, his gaze fixed on her, and even more so on her bag. "Nice bag," he said, not looking directly at her but loud enough to be heard. Rose didn't respond. She felt her body tense, her fingers gripping the leather of the bag even tighter, as if she could shield it from his invasive presence. The man leaned slightly closer to her and continued, "Must be worth more than you make in a year. Is it even real?" His voice carried a latent malice mixed with something deeper, something Rose recognized. Prejudice. Rose kept her eyes fixed on the floor. This situation wasn't new, but the intensity of the moment felt different. He was now speaking directly to her. "Tell me, how does a woman like you get something like that? Theft? Or was it a charity gift?" "I don't owe you any explanation," Rose replied, her voice low but firm. Her response seemed to irritate him. He stood up and moved even closer, invading her personal space. Rose could smell the alcohol on his breath. "An old woman like you carrying a bag like that? It doesn't make sense. Why don't you give it back to someone who knows its real value?" He reached for the bag strap, but Rose held on tightly, shouting, "Leave me alone." The other passengers just watched. Some raised their phones to record, but no one intervened. The man laughed, amused by her defiance. Rose was tense but steadfast. Her hands trembled slightly, yet she clung to the bag as if her life depended on it. The man's laughter echoed through the train car, a sound laced with disdain and triumph, as though he was already certain of his victory. "You're not letting go," he taunted, his smirk a challenge. "Fine, I can be more persuasive." Rose glanced at the passengers, silently pleading for help. All she found were averted gazes or raised phones recording the scene. The indifference stung almost as much as her fear. Then, a different sound cut through the atmosphere. It wasn't the rumble of the tracks or the man's voice. It was a solid clank of something striking the metal floor, like someone stepping purposefully into the center of the unfolding drama. From the back of the car, a figure rose. At first, it was just a shadow moving slowly toward the confrontation. Rose, still clutching her bag, couldn't look away. The man noticed as well, turning to shout, "Hey, what are you staring at? This has nothing to do with you." The figure didn't respond immediately. It continued forward with calm but deliberate steps until the flickering light revealed a familiar face. Not just to Rose, but to everyone in the car. It was Dwayne Johnson. He stopped just a few steps away, his gaze locked on the man, who now looked more wary than confident. Dwayne crossed his arms, his voice low but firm. "I think you're making a big mistake." The thief's eyes darted between Rose and Dwayne, as if calculating who would be easier to intimidate. Finally, he laughed again, though this time with a noticeable edge of unease. "You don't know what's going on here. This has nothing to do with you." Dwayne stepped closer, tilting his head slightly. "You're right," he said calmly. "But Someone has to do something. The train car fell silent. All eyes were fixed on the scene. Phones now recorded something far more compelling than the initial attack. The thief was still kneeling on the floor, clutching his twisted wrist, while Dwayne stood motionless like a statue, watching him. Rose, though still tense, seemed slightly more at ease with her unexpected defender's presence. Suddenly, the thief began to chuckle softly, almost like a murmur. The laughter grew louder, filling the carriage and catching everyone off guard. He looked at Dwayne with a gaze that now seemed bolder, almost defiant. "You think this is over?" he asked, panting but with a menacing tone. "You have no idea who I am." Dwayne tilted his head slightly, assessing the man. His expression remained neutral, but his eyes narrowed, as if trying to unravel the mystery behind those words. The thief, still on the floor, reached into his pocket and pulled out a small radio communicator. He pressed a button, and a deep voice came through on the other end. "Boss, we're ready." Green light. The entire carriage froze. Dwayne immediately lunged forward, snatching the radio from the thief's hand and pinning him against the wall. "What are you planning?" he demanded, his tone now firm and commanding. The thief chuckled again, even while restrained. "You don't know who you're dealing with. This isn't about a bag. It's about sending a message." Rose, terrified, clutched her bag even tighter, her eyes darting around as if expecting something to happen at any moment. Other passengers began to murmur, the tension in the air thickening. Dwayne pressed the thief harder against the wall. "What did you do? What's about to happen?" Before the thief could answer, the subway decelerated abruptly, as though someone had triggered the emergency brakes. The lights flickered. The sound of the tracks was replaced by the mechanical screech of something locking up. The train came to a halt in the middle of the tunnel. Dwayne scanned the surroundings quickly, sensing that this was part of a larger plan. He released the thief, who started laughing even louder, and turned to Rose. "You need to get out of here. Now." Rose looked at him, confused and scared. "But what's happening?" Before he could respond, the driver's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing a technical issue. Please remain in your seats while we resolve the problem." But Dwayne didn't buy it. He moved to the end of the car, inspecting his surroundings. Then he turned to the passengers. "Did anyone see anything suspicious before boarding?" No one replied, but uneasy glances were exchanged, and panic began to ripple through the group. The thief, still grinning, muttered, "Good luck, Mr. Hero. You can't save everyone." Dwayne turned back to Rose, more resolute than ever. "Stay close to me. Don't let go of your bag. Follow my lead." The stakes had shifted. This was no longer just about a theft. Rose, along with the other passengers, was now caught in something far bigger and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Dwayne moved through the train car with deliberate steps, each movement calculated as he scanned the area, assessing the situation. He knew he couldn't trust what the thief had said, but ignoring the threat wasn't an option either. Rose followed his instructions, staying close to him and clutching the bag tightly to her chest. Suddenly, the thief spoke again, his voice dripping with a cynical smile. "You can try, but it won't make a difference. You're all stuck here with me." Dwayne stepped closer to him, but before he could speak, a metallic sound echoed from the roof of the car. He glanced up, his expression hardening. "Something's wrong," Dwayne muttered, more to himself than anyone else. Turning to the passengers, he said, "Everyone stay calm. Just follow my instructions." Before he could say more, a loud burst of static filled the train. The lights flickered and a deep, almost mechanical voice came through the speakers. "Welcome, passengers. Tonight will be unforgettable." The passengers began to panic, their whispers turning into frightened murmurs. Dwayne raised his hands to quiet them, his voice steady and commanding. "Stay together," he said firmly. "We don't know what's going on, but we need to act as a team." Dwayne grabbed the thief by the collar, pulling him to his feet. "What's happening here? Talk, now." The man, though visibly rattled, still seemed to revel in the chaos. "You think I'm the problem here? I'm just a pawn. This is bigger than you can imagine." Dwayne's eyes narrowed. "Bigger how?" The thief laughed, his tone almost mocking. "You'll find out if you survive." Dwayne released him, shoving him back onto the seat with enough force to silence his laughter. He turned to Rose. "Do you know anything that might explain this? Something about your bag? Your daughter? Anything unusual?" Rose looked at him, bewildered. "My bag? No. It's just a normal bag, a gift from my daughter." She hesitated before adding, "But she did say there was something special inside, something to protect me." Dwayne paused, digesting the information. "Can you open it? We need to see what's inside." With trembling hands, Dwayne slowly opened her bag. Inside, alongside ordinary items like a wallet and a handkerchief, was something unexpected. A small, gleaming device with softly blinking lights. It was clearly high-tech, yet Rose appeared as surprised as everyone else. "My daughter never mentioned this," she said, looking at Dwayne with a mix of confusion and fear. Dwayne carefully picked up the device, examining it closely. "This isn't something ordinary," he murmured, mostly to himself. "Whatever it is, it's important. And it's probably the reason for all of this." Before he could say more, the intercom came to life again. "Ah, you found the gift. Very good. Now, let's see if you can keep it." The train's lights went out completely, plunging everyone into darkness. Dwayne grabbed Rose's arm. "Stay with me. Don't let go of my hand." In the ensuing silence, the sound of footsteps echoed from the roof of the train. Something was approaching and fast. Dwayne clenched the device in one hand, keeping Rose close. His voice was low but resolute. "No matter what happens, no one else gets hurt tonight." With a mix of skill, courage, and ingenuity, Dwayne managed to protect Rose, neutralize the threat, and safeguard the device. However, the mystery remained unresolved. Before disappearing into the crowd as they exited the train, Dwayne handed the device back to Rose. "This belongs to you. Take good care of it," he said. "And maybe it's time to ask your daughter some tough questions." Rose nodded, still in shock, but with newfound determination in her eyes. She held the device with the same firmness she had clung to her bag, realizing that somehow this was bigger than herself. Dwayne watched as Rose vanished into the night, her bag and the device safe. He knew that tonight was only the beginning of something much larger. Sometimes, protecting one life means diving into mysteries that were never meant to be uncovered. And you, what would you do in Rose's place? Or Dwayne's? This story isn't just about action. It's about courage, standing up for what's right, and uncovering mysteries that go beyond the surface. If this story gripped you, don't just scroll past. Like this video to support more thrilling stories. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode of suspense and mystery. Comment below, what do you think the device was? What should happen next? Let's build the next chapter together. Share this video with friends who love action-packed stories. Small actions can create big changes, just like in the story. Stay tuned for more, because the night is full of untold secrets.